Divine revelation: discover God's miraculous presence in your sacred space right now. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the people of Israel found themselves languishing under the harsh oppression of Egypt. The cries of their anguish pierced the heavens, resonating deeply within the heart of Moses, a humble shepherd tending the flocks of Jethro in the wilderness surrounding Horeb, the mountain of God. The relentless sun cast its unforgiving glow over the parched earth, mirroring the despair engulfing his people. As he led his sheep through the rugged terrain, Moses wrestled with feelings of insignificance, aware that his humble task stood in stark contrast to the cries of suffering echoing from Egypt. As he ventured deeper into the wilderness, seeking solace in the barren hills and vast canyons, he caught sight of an extraordinary phenomenon. A bush, ignited by flames yet untouched, shimmered with a brilliance that drew him closer, beckoning him with an otherworldly glow. His heart raced as he approached the spectacle, the air thick with divine tension. Suddenly, the voice of God called out, "Moses! Moses!" "Here I am," he replied, awe and fear intertwining within him. With those words, the very atmosphere changed around him. The voice continued, commanding reverence, "Do not come near, take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." The ground of the wilderness transformed into sacred space, as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob unveiled his name to this unsuspecting shepherd: "I am who I am." The reality of his presence enveloped Moses, igniting a tempest of emotions: wonder, dread, and an indescribable spark of hope igniting within his soul. Yet, mingled with the awe was paralyzing self-doubt. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? His question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of responsibility. In response, the great I Am assured him, "I will be with you." The promise echoed through the valleys and mountains of Horeb, embedding itself in the very essence of Moses' being. God empowered him with miraculous signs: a staff that would turn into a serpent, a hand that would show leprosy and be healed, demonstrating his omnipotence. But, he stammered, "I am not eloquent. I am slow of speech." Without a trace of impatience, God promised him a companion. His brother Aaron would be his mouth, aiding him in this monumental task of liberation. The assurance settled like a gentle breeze, yet still fear crept in. How could a mere shepherd confront the mighty Pharaoh and demand the freedom of his people? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Moses stood, gripping his staff, the enormity of the mission ahead loomed like an insurmountable mountain. Shadows of despair flitted through his mind, reminding him of the oppressors awaiting him in Egypt, the plagues that would ensue, and the fate of his people hanging precariously in the balance. The monumental weight of obedience pressed upon his heart. Would he embrace the call of God, trusting in his divine promise, or would he falter under the oppressive burden of his doubts? As he inhaled deeply, preparing to step into the brewing storm of destiny, a chilling thought gripped him: what if he failed? What if the Israelites did not believe him? The warmth of the burning bush faded into an urgent call for faith and obedience, setting the stage for a journey fraught with peril yet shrouded in the promise of liberation. Moses withdrew slightly from the radiant bush, his heart heavy with uncertainty. He turned his gaze to the skies, where the sun hung like a relentless judge, and he felt the weight of the world pressing upon his shoulders. Yet, in that sacred space, amidst his fears, the voice of God rang through the air once more, commanding and yet gentle: "What is that in your hand?" "A staff," he answered, bewilderment curling his brow. "Throw it on the ground," the Lord instructed. Moses obeyed, and as the wooden staff struck the earth, it transformed into a writhing serpent. Moses recoiled in terror, his resolve wavering. But God spoke again: "Reach out your hand and take it by the tail." Trembling, he complied, and as he grasped the serpent, it became a staff once more. The miraculous sign surged with divine power, reinforcing within Moses a burgeoning certainty that God was with him. "Thus you shall say to the people of Israel, the Lord declared, the God of your fathers has sent me to you." Moses absorbed these words, a profound wisdom enveloping his spirit. "But they will not believe me or listen to my voice," he argued, his voice trembling. "For they will say, the Lord did not appear to you." Then the Lord revealed yet another sign. "Put your hand inside your cloak." As Moses followed the command, his hand emerged leprous as snow. Shock coursed through him, but God assured, "Now put it back." With a swift motion, he returned it to his cloak, and it was healed, restored like the first light of dawn. "The signs will follow you, Moses," the Lord said with unyielding assurance. "And if they do not believe even these two signs, you shall take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground, and the water that you shall take from the Nile will become blood on the dry ground." Moses felt the tremors of divine purpose rise within him, yet the shadow of self-doubt lingered. "Oh, my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, I am slow of speech and of tongue." The air thickened with the weight of his uncertainties, the silence pressing around him as God's patience enveloped him. "Who made man's mouth?" God replied, "Who makes him mute, or deaf, or seeing, or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak." A deep stillness settled over the moment as Moses felt the callous thickness of inadequacy begin to dissolve against the sheer force of divine promise. But his heart struggled still. "Oh, my Lord, please send someone else." With those words, he cringed as though challenging the very purpose of God. The Lord grew impatient, yet compassion flowed forth. "Is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. Behold, he is coming out to meet you, and when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart." Moses stood, the weight of anxiety still present but now lightened with the assurance of God's greater plan. He gathered the courage to move forward. With newfound determination, he took a breath, clutched the staff, and steeled his heart. As he turned to leave, the fire of the bush still flickered in his mind, a testimony of God's enduring presence. He understood at last that he was not merely stepping into the unknown, he was entering a divine mission, one that would alter the fate of his people forever. In that moment of resolve, the air buzzed with divine expectancy. Moses was on the brink of an extraordinary journey, but what awaited him in Egypt would test his faith and courage in ways he could not yet perceive. Little did he know, the very fabric of Pharaoh's heart would soon be woven into a tapestry revealing God's sovereign plan for liberation. "Thus begins the path to freedom," the Lord whispered in his heart, and with it, a promise that shall echo through generations. Moses journeyed toward Egypt, his heart pounding like the feet of the fleeing donkey beneath him. Though he bore the weight of divine purpose, the path seemed daunting. The sun cast long shadows over the land, a reminder of the oppressive past his people endured. Yet, within him, a flicker of hope ignited with every breath. As he approached the border of Egypt, he could feel a palpable tension in the air, reminiscent of a storm gathering strength. His thoughts drifted to the words spoken by the Lord, "I will be with you." He clutched the staff, a symbol of authority molded by the hand of God, pondering the signs he would soon perform. Before long, he encountered his brother Aaron, whose face lit up upon seeing Moses. The siblings embraced, and for a fleeting moment, the burdens on their hearts were momentarily lifted. Aaron, filled with joy, spoke, "The Lord has spoken to me as well. He told me you would come to deliver his people." A rush of relief surged through Moses, the presence of his brother forged a bond of courage between them. "Together, we will approach the elders of Israel," he replied, his voice steadying. Arriving at the abode of the Hebrew leaders, they gathered, a sea of faces marked by weariness and despair. Aaron spoke ancient words of reassurance, recounting the promise of their deliverance, and how the Lord had appeared to Moses. Still, the crowd reacted with skepticism, casting sidelong glances. "What signs do you bring to prove this?" one elder questioned, his voice cautious. With a deep breath, Moses presented the staff before them, letting it fall to the ground. Gasps echoed through the assembly as it transformed into a serpent, coiling and hissing. But Moses' heart sank as he peered into their faces. An elder declared, "This may be witchcraft. What more do you have?" God's spirit surged through Moses as he recalled the leprous hand. He called upon Aaron, demonstrating the power of the Lord. They witnessed the miraculous healing, a testament to God's favor. The withered spirits began to stir with hope. "The God of our fathers has indeed spoken," Aaron cried, his voice gaining strength. "He has sent us to lead you to freedom." The elders inched closer, captivated by the miracles. "But will Pharaoh truly heed this?" Another elder asked, lips trembling with fear. Moses felt the weight of the world settling back upon him as doubt crept in again. "If he refuses our words, then God will show his might," Aaron replied with fervor. With a mix of anticipation and apprehension, the brothers prepared to meet Pharaoh. The thought of confronting one so powerful sent tremors of uncertainty through them. Yet, they steeled themselves with the knowledge that God's hand would guide their every step. As they approached the great palace, its towering walls loomed like titans over them. They crossed the threshold into a world saturated with authority and pride. The chamber was opulent, adorned with symbols of Egyptian gods, a stark contrast to the cries of their enslaved people. Pharaoh, adorned in royal splendor and wielding a scepter emblematic of his rule, regarded them with disdain. "Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice?" he boomed, cruelty curling his lips, dismissing their plea. Moses stood firm, bolstered by the power of God. "I am here to declare his word. Let my people go, that they may serve him." A tense silence enveloped the chamber, the fate of the Israelites hanging in the balance, their deliverance beginning to unfold. But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, like stone against the torrential flood of divine will. Little did he know, the struggle was just beginning, a fierce clash of wills that would echo through all generations. "An ordeal awaits," the Lord whispered into the depths of Moses' heart, "and through this journey, a greater purpose shall be revealed." As the words of Moses lingered in the air, the throne room grew thick with tension. Pharaoh sneered, looking upon the two men with condescension. "Who is this God of yours?" he retorted, rising from his golden chair. "I know not the Lord, and neither will I let Israel go." Moses felt a tremor run through him, the weight of a nation's cries pressing heavily upon his shoulders. "With a strong hand he will deliver us," Moses proclaimed, drawing strength from the promise of the Almighty. Pharaoh's laughter echoed in the cold chamber, cutting through the hearts of the assembled nobles. "A strong hand. Your people are but slaves. They will remain in their toil." In that moment, a darkness deepened as Moses, with a glance at Aaron, recalled the commands of the Lord, each one heavy with divine purpose. "We are to perform signs before you, great Pharaoh. Let us show you the mighty hand of the Lord." "Signs?" Pharaoh scoffed, waving his hand dismissively. Moses, trembling yet resolute, lifted his staff high, and declared, "By this staff, the Lord will show wonders. The very waters of your land will turn to blood." Then, Aaron extended his hand. The moment the staff touched the waters of the Nile, the river surged in an uproar, sparkling red, choking life from its depths. The palace fell silent, but Pharaoh, unyielding and resolute, continued to mock. "The magicians of Egypt can do this as well." Yet, even as the waters flowed crimson, the Lord's presence was undeniable. The people around the throne gasped, their astonishment mingling with dread. For an instant, doubt flickered in Pharaoh's eyes, but he quickly masked it beneath layers of arrogance. "So be it," he thundered, masking fear with bravado. "You think these tricks will compel me? My heart will not be moved." With anger arising from deep within, Moses turned back to the Lord, who spoke unto him, "He will not heed you, but I shall show him my might. Prepare for the next sign." Days passed as Moses and Aaron continued their confrontations with Pharaoh. Each time, they stood firm against his lofty pride. Time and again, the river morphed, frogs swarmed, gnats infested, yet the defiance in Pharaoh's heart only hardened deeper as each sign of God's power was met with disdain. Moses felt a stirring in his spirit. What more shall the Lord do? Will we endure forever this battle upon the earth? He implored. Fear not, my servant, came the assurance of the Lord. For the day of reckoning draws near. They shall not linger in blood and pestilence. My hand shall move mightily among them. This divine promise surged through Moses, igniting resolve anew. We shall keep faith in the Lord, he whispered to Aaron. He will make a way. The landscape of Egypt remained shrouded in suffering, but the tension hung thick, the weight of the Lord's plan growing ever closer. The echoes of the cries of the Hebrews surged within him, filling his heart with an urgency, a reminder of the covenant made with Abraham. What lay ahead was still shrouded in mystery, but Moses felt the tides of destiny shifting. The battle was drawing out the strength of the Almighty, and soon the world would see his relentless pursuit of justice and mercy. And above all, a chilling thought sprawled in the depths of Moses' mind: how far will Pharaoh's heart harden before divine deliverance breaks forth? In the distance, the horizon flickered with possibilities, the skies brimming with the promise of the Lord's works yet to unfold. The unity of purpose set the stage for what would soon be revealed: liberty born of trial, and a nation destined to know their God in ways they had not yet imagined. And it came to pass after these things that the Lord spoke again to Moses, saying, Go unto Pharaoh, for I have made his heart stubborn, and he will not relent. But through this, I will demonstrate my wonders, and Egypt shall know that I am the Lord. With the words of the Almighty echoing in his heart, Moses approached Pharaoh once more, accompanied by Aaron, their spirits ignited with divine fervor. As they entered the throne room, the atmosphere was charged with tension, a weighty silence preceding the storm of God's intent. Let my people go, Moses demanded, his voice steady yet trembling with the authority of the Lord. Or I will bring swarms of flies upon you and your people, and your houses will be filled with them. Pharaoh's eyes narrowed, defiance etched upon his finely chiseled features. You think to frighten me with threats? I closed my heart to you once, and I will not bow down to your God. Yet, in that moment, as the words escaped Pharaoh's lips, the skies darkened, the air grew heavy with anticipation. Moses raised his staff, and suddenly, a great swarm of flies burst forth, filling the air with a dark cloud of terror. The buzzing sound was as thunder in the ears of the Egyptians, engulfing their world in chaos. The Egyptians, who witnessed the wonder, ran in panic as the flies swarmed upon their livestock in every corner of their land, but Goshen, where the Israelites dwelled, remained untouched by the curse. See now, O king, Moses proclaimed with the boldness of a prophet, the Lord liveth. He draws a distinction between his people and your household. Pharaoh, stricken by the manifestation of God's power, called for Moses and Aaron. Entreat the Lord to remove this plague from me and my people, and I will let you go, he stated, his arrogance now tinged with desperation. But once the crowded darkness lifted and the Lord removed the flies, Pharaoh's heart hardened again. He returned to his former stubbornness, ignoring the signs that spoke of the Almighty's glory. Moses stood in bewilderment, wrestling with the weight of Pharaoh's defiance and the suffering inflicted upon both Egyptians and Hebrews. In that moment of anguish, he sought the Lord, crying out for understanding. What shall we do, O Lord? How long shall it be before they recognize your holy hand? Tell the people of Israel to prepare themselves, came the assurance of God. For the next plague shall fall upon the land and be without mercy. I will strike the hearts of the oppressor, and in that hour, deliverance shall spring forth. The words kindled a fire within Moses. He began to announce to the flock of Israel what was to come. Prepare yourselves. Tomorrow, there shall be a grievous pestilence among the cattle of Egypt. I plead with you, hold fast to your God, for he shall guide us through this dark night. And as Moses spoke, the hearts of the Hebrews began to hope again. They looked upon him with anticipation, seeing in him the promise of a future unmarred by chains. Yet, as Pharaoh's wrath continued unabated, a storm stirred within the spirits of the oppressors. Moses understood that the truth of God's justice was nigh a reckoning destined to shake the throne of Egypt to its very core. As the days unfolded, divine signs multiplied, and the cries for freedom swelled among the oppressed. The heavens trembled with anticipation of the calamity that had yet to come, and the heart of Pharaoh would soon face the fullness of divine purpose. Thus, the conflict raged on, but in the heart of Moses, a new question arose, echoing with eternal weight: will the bitterness of Pharaoh's pride shatter in the face of a coming deliverance? For every sign held the promise of the Almighty, and now the dawning of a new reality was at the brink, bringing forth the inescapable question what miraculous wonders awaited as God's sovereign hand prepared to unfold his grand design. And it came to pass, as the dawn rose upon the morrow, that Moses stood before Pharaoh once more, empowered by the very words of God. Thus saith the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go, that they may serve me, or else, behold, the hand of the Lord shall be upon thy cattle which is in the field, upon the horses, the asses, the camels, the oxen, and the sheep. A mighty plague shall arise. Pharaoh, with his heart further hardened, dismissed Moses with contempt, commanding that he cease his demands. Yet, as Moses left, he felt the weight of divine urgency upon his spirit, a harbinger of what was to unfold. The very same day, the Lord spoke again to Moses, saying, set apart the livestock of Israel from the cattle of Egypt. For I will make a distinction between my people and your people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. Thus, Moses and Aaron declared to the Israelites, delivering the word of the Lord with trembling faith. They gathered their families and their flocks, knowing that divine protection would shield them from the coming calamity. On the morrow, as the sun climbed to its zenith, a great pestilence swept across the land of Egypt. The cattle fell dead in droves, their lifeless bodies strewn upon the land, while the cattle of Israel remained untouched, standing healthy and strong in the meadows of Goshen. And Pharaoh, upon hearing the lamentations of his people and the shaken cries of despair filling the air, summoned his wise men and magicians, seeking to comprehend the enormity of this catastrophe. Yet, even their counsels could offer no remedy, for the hand of Yahweh was undeniably at work, sowing confusion among the hearts of the Egyptians. Moses returned to Pharaoh, his resolve unyielding. Behold, the Lord hath shown you his might. Yet you remain unmoved. Will you not humble yourself and let my people go? Pharaoh, racked with anger and fear, refused once again, his heart like stone against the tides of divine mercy. Who is this Lord, that I should heed his voice? I know not the Lord, neither will I let his people go. At that moment, a great darkness of realization hung in the air. The tension escalated as the people of Egypt began to see the futility of resisting the living God, yet their leader was ensnared within chains of pride. As the days passed, a sound echoed through the land, a cry of anguish that pierced the heavens. The cries of the Israelites grew fervent, they began to cry out, not just for freedom, but for deliverance, a longing for their God who had heard their afflictions. In the night, as Moses sought the Lord, he found himself aflame with the weight of God's promises. Lord, he cried, must we endure the heart of Pharaoh, unyielding to your mercy? Will your wonders cease, or shall a greater act of deliverance await upon the horizon? The time is coming, the Lord assured him, his voice a gentle yet firm whisper, when I shall show all of Egypt the fullness of my power and the depths of my covenant love. They shall know that I am the Lord. Thus, Moses returned, equipped with a stirring in his spirit, for he understood now that the fate of nations was in the balance, and the orchestrations of the Almighty were leading toward a grand revelation. As the hand of judgment loomed over the land and Pharaoh's stubbornness persisted, the final reckoning was at hand, the cornerstone of God's sovereignty etched in the annals of salvation history. Prepare yourselves, O people of Israel, for deliverance draws near. Moses proclaimed, his heart aflame with fervent hope. Yet still, in the shadows, a potent question lingered: what depths of suffering shall fulfill God's ultimate plan, and by what means shall Pharaoh come to know the God of Israel? For the divine masterpiece was unfolding, and the stage was set for God's glorious resolution. And it came to pass, as the days turned into weeks, that the land of Egypt remained shrouded in a darkness of despair while the people of Israel dwelled in the light of God's favor. The cries of the Egyptians grew louder, echoing through the streets as they mourned the loss of their livestock, their hearts filled with fear and fury directed at Pharaoh. In this gathering storm of affliction, Pharaoh summoned Moses once again, his spirit wrestling between defiance and desperation. "I will not let your people go. Why should I acknowledge this God you speak of, when my own gods have failed me in this hour?" Moses, resilient and unwavering, responded, "The Lord hath commanded, let my people go, that they may serve me. If you refuse to heed his voice, tomorrow, I shall bring a plague of boils upon your people, a grievous affliction that shall not just be upon man but upon beast." But even then, Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he turned away, a king wrapped in his own stubbornness, blind to the signs that surrounded him. The next day, as the sun rose with a fiery hue, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Take handfuls of soot from the kiln, and let Moses sprinkle it toward heaven in the sight of Pharaoh, and it shall become fine dust in all the land of Egypt, and it shall cause boils to break forth upon man and upon beast throughout all the land of Egypt." Moses gathered the soot and, following the command of the Lord, he threw it heavenward. Immediately, a grievous sore broke out upon the Egyptians. The magicians, unable to withstand the affliction themselves, were forced to flee, proving powerless to oppose the might of Yahweh. Pharaoh, upon feeling the sting of his own misery, took counsel of his advisers, but deep within, his pride remained robust. "Yet this God you speak of, where is he amid our tribulations?" echoed in his heart, despite the overwhelming evidence of divine power that surrounded him. As the boils afflicted the Egyptians, murmurs began to rise among the people, questioning Pharaoh's stubbornness as they laid their eyes upon the suffering of the land. In the desperate midst of their pain, they began to whisper of the God of Israel, his great power revealed in judgments against Egypt. Moses, heart heavy yet resolute, beseeched the Lord once more, "O God, yet again your hand is made evident among the nations, yet Pharaoh remains unyielded. Will his heart ever soften before you?" The Lord replied, "I have raised him up for this very purpose, that I might show my power in him, and that my name may be declared in all the earth. Though he trembles in his spirit, he will not open his heart." Thus, the drama of divine confrontation deepened, and the stage was set yet again for the revelation of God's sovereign will. Moses returned to Pharaoh, his voice firm as an anchor in the storm. "The Lord has sent me to remind you of his power. He shall send yet another plague, one that will leave a mark not only upon your land but upon your very heart. Prepare yourselves, for the time of reckoning approaches." As whispers of dread spread through the corridors of Pharaoh's palace, questions loomed: what more must we endure? Shall hearts ever turn toward the Almighty? Amidst the pain and resistance, a profound truth emerged. For within the chaos lay the fingerprints of the divine, etching the narrative of redemption, carving paths toward God's ultimate plans for his people. The trust of Moses and the cries of the Israelites became the echo of a promise drawing ever closer, "For I shall show my wonders in the midst of the earth, and the world shall know that I am the Lord." Yet, what would be the cost of Pharaoh's rebellion, and what mighty displays of love awaited those who would finally yield? The mystery of God's sovereign resolution hung heavily in the atmosphere, a divine tapestry woven with threads of judgment and hope. And it came to pass that the Lord spoke again unto Moses, saying, "Go in unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that I might show these my signs before him. And thou shalt say unto him, Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow will I bring the locusts into thy coast." With resolve like iron, Moses approached Pharaoh once more. The sun was high, and yet darkness loomed over the land, as if creation itself held its breath. "Thus saith the Lord of the Hebrews, How long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me." Pharaoh crossed his arms, defiantly spiraled in his own pride, and replied, "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go." His heart, a fortress firm against the tides of divine will, remained encased in rebellion. In that dire moment, the Lord spoke again to Moses, "Stretch forth thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come upon the land of Egypt, and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail hath left. Moses obeyed the command of the Lord, and he stretched forth his staff, and the Lord caused an east wind to blow mightily all that day and all that night. When morning came, the locusts were upon the land, settling down in every corner. They covered the face of the earth so that the land was darkened, and they did eat every herb of the land and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left. The cries of anguish arose, heavy and mournful, as the Egyptians beheld their fields laid waste before the wrath of God. Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, speaking with a trembling voice, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God, that he may take away from me this death only. Moses lifted his hands in prayer, and the Lord brought a strong west wind that carried away the locusts into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coast of Egypt. Yet, no sooner had the locusts vanished than Pharaoh's heart hardened again, as if sealed by a divine hand. Then the Lord said unto Moses, I will bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterward, he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out altogether. And Moses, filled with the gravity of the divine charge, warned the people, instructing them to prepare their homes for the coming night of judgment. Speak unto the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. For on this night, the Lord will pass through the land of Egypt and smite all the firstborn of the land. As the darkness thickened, the air grew heavy with the imminence of something unfathomable, a sacred mystery enveloping the hearts of the Israelites. They stood on the threshold of redemption, knowing that through blood and sacrifice, God's promise was drawing spine-tinglingly close. And yet, Pharaoh and all Egypt remained blissfully unaware of the fate looming over them, a consequence of their heart's refusal to turn. What would transpire within the depths of that fateful night? Would the echoes of blood and grief awaken Pharaoh's heart, or had the tapestry of judgment been woven too tightly for any threads of mercy to slip through? For the hour of reckoning approached, and a promise, echoing through time, awaited its fulfillment, I shall pass through and I will take a remnant to myself, the world will know that I am the Lord. And it came to pass at midnight that the Lord did indeed pass through the land of Egypt, and there was a great cry in the land, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. The firstborn of man and beast fell silent, the homes of the Egyptians echoing with desperation, as the night shrouded them in sorrow and despair. But among the houses of the Israelites, the Lord had given a promise, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. Thus, the faithful obeyed and marked their doorposts with the blood of the Lamb, a crimson testament to their faith in the divine protection of the Lord. As the morning dawned, the cries of anguish filled the air, and Pharaoh arose in the dead of night. His heart, once impenetrable, trembled under the weight of loss and despair. He summoned Moses and Aaron with urgency, his voice quaking. Rise up, and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go, serve the Lord, as ye have said. And take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. The Israelites, upon hearing the command, hastened to obey, gathering their belongings, their spirits intertwining with hope and liberation. In their haste, they asked of the Egyptians, and the Lord gave them favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and they lent unto them jewels of silver, and jewels of gold, and raiment. Thus, they departed, burdened not by shackles but adorned in the riches of a promise fulfilled. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelled in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day, it came to pass, that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. Out of bondage, they strode forth, carrying the weight of their history yet buoyed by the grace of deliverance. The Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine. For in this act of remembrance, the covenant bond between God and his people would be sealed for generations, a mark of the deliverer who had called them out of darkness into his marvelous light. And Moses called for the elders of Israel and instructed them, saying, This day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations, ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. With the dawn breaking, the path before them shimmered with divine purpose, their journey lit by the fire of his presence, yet the whispers of uncertainty lingered. What awaited them beyond the wilderness? What trials would forge their faith? They had been set free, yet the unknown loomed vast before them. As they crossed the threshold of Egypt and set their sight upon the vastness of the desert, the heart of a nation echoed questions above the clamor of their liberation. Would they trust in the God who delivered them, or would the shadows of their past chase them into despair? The hour was at hand for divine revelation, as the promise interwove with their faith a whisper of hope rising amidst their cries for deliverance, beckoning them forth into a future where faith would be the mantle of their identity and obedience, their battle cry. For the Lord had plans not just to rescue, but to transform a covenant people who would carry his glory into the nations to come. And it came to pass, as the Israelites moved forth from Egypt, filled with both joy and trepidation, that the voice of the Lord resonated in their hearts, reminding them of his unwavering faithfulness. Fear not, for I have led you out with a mighty hand, and I shall not forsake you. The air crackled with the electric energy of divine purpose, the pathway before them illuminated by the very presence of God. As they journeyed deeper into the wilderness, the land unfolded like a promise, replete with the raw beauty of creation, a reminder that they were no longer slaves but a people chosen for a purpose. Yet, the sands of uncertainty sifted through their fingers, and murmurs of doubt began to rise. What shall we eat? What shall we drink? They questioned, their voices tinged with nostalgia for the leeks and onions of their captivity. Moses, burdened yet emboldened by the Spirit, lifted up his voice in prayer to the Lord, seeking wisdom for the questions of the hearts. And the Lord answered him, I will rain down bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day. Thus, with a few simple words, the Creator of all things assured his people of his continual provision. On the morning of the 6th day, an ethereal hush enveloped them, giving way to the soft falling of manna like dew upon the ground, white and round like coriander seed, sweet as honey. In astonishment, they exclaimed, What is it? For they had never before tasted the sustenance of heaven itself. At the Lord's command, they gathered the manna, aside from the Sabbath, each bread unique for that day. Yet, some heeded not the voice of the Lord, seeking instead to gather more than was commanded, only to find their stores turned to rot by morning. Trust in me, the Lord urged through his servant. Each day brings my provision anew. Moses instructed them, revealing, Eat it today, for this is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. In this act of reliance, he taught them obedience to his word, a lesson not merely for survival, but for communion with their God. But lo, as they traveled, they soon found themselves in dire need of water in the dry and parched land. Again, their hearts grumbled against Moses and Aaron, voices echoing their anguish. Did you bring us out here to die of thirst? With earnestness, Moses sought the Lord, whose heart had been moved by their plight. Go before the people, and take with you some of the elders of Israel. Strike the rock at Horeb, and I will provide water. Heeding the divine command, Moses complied. As his staff struck the rock, water gushed forth in abundant streams, bursting forth like life from the very depths of the earth. The people drank deeply, and their hearts rejoiced. Thus, their murmurs became melodies of praises, singing hallelujahs to the God who had quenched their thirst. As the months passed, they encountered the Amalekites, fierce warriors intent on conflict. Fear gripped the hearts of many, but the Lord spoke to Moses with authority. Go, for I will deliver them into your hand. In the heat of battle, Moses stood upon the hill, his arms outstretched towards heaven as he held the staff of God. When his hands were raised, the Israelites prevailed, but when weary and faltering, they would begin to fall before their adversaries. Thus, Aaron and Hur, seeing Moses struggle, held his arms aloft until the sun set, and the battle was won. From this day, Israel would remember the faithfulness of the Lord, and Moses would name the altar, The Lord is my banner. And there, God spoke, promising that the memory of Amalek would be blotted out from under heaven. As they journeyed to Sinai, anticipation filled the air as the mountain of God loomed in sight. The people would meet the Lord of the covenant, and their encounter would be unlike any other. Smoke and fire enveloped the mountain, the sound of trumpets echoed with terrifying grandeur, and the voice of the Lord vibrated through the depths of their spirits. "Gather the people unto me, that they may hear my words," he commanded. Moses ascended the mountain, and in that sacred moment, God began to reveal himself, delivering the commandments that would serve as a guide for his people, laws of love and righteousness designed for a holy nation. The mountains trembled, and the people below stood in awe as the 10 Commandments were etched in stone. "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." As the Lord declared his covenant, he etched a new identity upon the hearts of Israel, a promise that would transcend generations, binding them to his heart forevermore. Thus they drank deeply from the well of divine grace, receiving God's law as a gift, a blueprint for living in communion with him. They were not merely a people freed from chains, they were the bride, sought after, indelibly marked in the annals of his eternal story. And so, as they struggled and thrived through the wilderness, their history intertwined with God's redemptive purposes. The promise of a new land, flowing with milk and honey, would come forth, yet their real inheritance lay in knowing the God who had called them by name. The stories of his deliverance would resound through the ages, testifying to his unwavering love and faithfulness. Beloved, as you find your own wilderness, remember this: we serve a God who hears our cries, who feeds our souls, who provides our every need, and who partners with us in the unfolding of his purposes for our lives. Let your heart not be troubled. Rise up each day to trust in his unwavering provision and faithfulness. And now, this is your moment, beloved. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm. Comment your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story impacted your faith, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony, for only true believers understand the importance of reaching more souls for Christ.